Hello everyone. Let's proceed on to the next chapter, Nationalism of NCRT Political Theory. Now, the basics that are related to it are the concepts of nationalism, and the second one is the definition of nation and nationalism itself. So, what constitutes a nation? What nationalism is? So, nationalism, as a literal meaning, it is shared belief of having a nation. But what exactly a nation is? So, nation is the collective identity of people, an identity that people uh, have will to share. That the identity that people have themselves created and shaped via historical process, and those historical process can be continued peaceful existence or collective struggle. But in short, nation concern primarily itself with the collective identity that concern with culture, language, beliefs, and obviously historical process. Because culture is the transmitted way of life. Nothing can be transmitted if it isn't historical, if it doesn't have an antecedent. So in that case, how can culture be transmitted if we do not had ancestors or there was not a continuing process? So the historical elements are also there. This is in general a technical and political outline of what nation is. And nationalism is the sharing of this belief. Nationalism is sharing of this identity of nation. Now let's proceed to the NCRT book. First, the introducing nationalism. So, as I already gave you an outline, now during the last 2 centuries, nationalism has emerged as one of the most compelling of political creeds, which has helped to shape history. It has inspired intense loyalty as well as deep hatreds. It has united people as well as divided them. That it has helped liberate them from oppressive rule, and it has also been a cause of bitterness. It has been a factor of breakup of empires and redrawing of boundaries of states and empires. But it has also united people. And there are many such examples, such as the example of India, many Asian and African colonies that has thrown up the yokes of colonialism, African colonies, many countries of Latin America, and if we go further or deeper into the past, we we can take examples of Europe itself. So before the unification of many such identities or the consolidation and formation of many such identities, Europe was a hodgepodge of different principalities. But somehow the people such as German, French, Italian, all of them, they started getting the recognition of their own culture. And those who are not aware of a good outline about the term culture, so culture is a lifestyle, is the way of living. But this way of living is a continuing continuing practice. It is closely monitored and transmitted across generation. And the basic element of a culture is the individual himself, which is closely followed by family. Because all in all, the whole the struggle in the world, it is about living a life. So everyone who wants to live a life, they need certain elements that can ensure their survival. So the transmission of culture or transmission of cultural practices, traditions, custom, it is also a survival mechanism so that we do not have to reinvent fire and wheel and other technology in each generation. Yes, so precisely the definition of culture is encapsulated in this phrase that it helps us in the survival mechanism so that we do not need to reinvent fire and wheel all the time. So the transmission of knowledge, it is a core part of culture so that our descendants, our children, or upcoming generations, they should have an idea of what the world is, what are the good things, what are the bad things, what are the practices that will be beneficial for them, what are the practices that will be harmful for them, what are the elements that can help them live a good life, and what are the elements they need to avoid. So this is precisely what a culture is. So the culture is transmission of way of life, transmission of way of life or way of living. And this transmission, it is done in the language that is closely associated with people, the closely associated with group language or group speech. So if in you are living in a particular geography and people of that country that speak local dialect, which they would call their mother tongue. So this transmission, it is done by this mother language, and language is nothing but a, a voice of culture. I put stress on language and local dialects because this is precisely how uh, a culture transmit in an efficient way. Yes, culture can transmit in other languages as well, but the the local dialect, it has some emotional issue attached with it. It is the local dialect is the thing, is the primary thing that a growing up child, uh, a person of a certain community or certain geography or certain culture, he or she has seen it. He has heard, spoken, practiced, revived, and memorized this language. So this particular the language, it has uh, really a motherly attachment with the person, an emotional attachment with the person, and that's how the language is the primary driver, or language is the primary marker by which any culture can be distinguished. Yes. Um Now, my point of stressing upon language is that many present cultures, they are recognized by languages themselves. So let's talk about these six nation states: German, Germany, Tamil, Hindustan, Turkey, Italy, and Spain. So these are these are not just languages; these are distinguishable cultures that that have turned into separate nation states. So primarily, we may highlight language as the primary marker, or we may see language as the primary marker. But my point is, the primary marker is the culture itself. The component that we need to look at while identifying nation state or any ethnicity is the culture. It is not the language. Language is the voice of a particular culture, voice of a culture. And I have told this a lot of time, that culture is the the expression of geography. Culture, it is manifestation of geography. So whichever geography you live in, if if it can be distinguished, you are certainly or you are likely to develop a distinguished culture of your own. Let me elaborate how this happens. Uh, Take the example of India. So here we have desert. This is the Hindi heartland. This is mostly the alluvial plains. These are the coasts, and this here they are snow-clad mountains or the Himalayas. So in short, we have geographical diversities here. One, we have a desert. That uh, desert is a place that is devoid of rainfall, that is devoid of precipitation. So mostly the vegetation is scarce here. But the alluvial plain, just a distance of around 500 kilometer, not more than that, we have ever flowing, the largest rivers of the world, such as Ganges, Yamuna, Brahmaputra. So just 500 kilometers of distance, there is clear difference of precipitation. So these two people, the one that belongs to the western desert and the one they belong to the alluvial plains, they are likely to have different cultures. It is because desert, because of its less precipitation and less vegetation, it will have different kind of lifestyle. It will have different kind of upkeep, such as the way to uh, the diets, the precautions, the folklores, the behavior of people. Let me elaborate on that. As we know, the people of desert, they do not have that much vegetation. So first, their diet, it will be it will consist of those cereals, those grain, or those staples that can be grown there, and such as millets. So millets can grow in sandy soil. They can grow in grow with less water. So first, first difference is about diet. Second, since they live in desert, they they will have more than 300 days of bright sunshine in their region, for which their houses, their clothes, it will be different. And now the precautions. So they are living in an extreme atmosphere, in extreme climate pattern. So the precautions will be customized according to the local conditions. So generally, the people of desert, they wear white and loose clothes so that the accumulated heat, it can be relieved. But if we take the example of alluvial plains, so these are very fertile plain and a lot of other staples can grow there. So since they have a diversity of food grain to choose from, they will have different kind of houses. Their houses would not be similar to that of a desert person. A desert person would build such houses that will minimize heat. But these people who are already living near plenty of water and the temperature and such conditions, they are already moderate than that of desert. Their houses are going to be different, and uh, the clothes. they are also going to be different. A desert person would wear whiter and looser clothes, but a person from flowing rivers, a person from uh, fertile plains, they will have different set of clothes. And this is how I have already mentioned the primary differences in diets, in houses, in clothing, and in precautions. They will have different kind of precautions. The people of desert, they would not fear waterborne disease, but the people of fertile plain, they will have precautionary measures, especially for water, flowing waters, collected accumulated water, or waterborne diseases. So the differences, they are glaring. And if these many things are different, the folklores, they will also be different. The the legends or the heroes of desert, they those will be one who survive or cross in the desert without any supply, without water, or similar such naturally heroic struggles. And the heroes or legends of the alluvial plains, they will be different. They will concern with those people who uh, who uh, or who exploited the fertile condition for the benefit of all. So the legends and folklores of fertile plain, they may concern with large empire, because fertile conditions, they readily are conducive for establishment of large empires, because there is everything. There is water, there is a constant supply of uh, food grains. So settlements will be there, more people will be there, and such surviving conducive atmosphere is there. So population and generations would readily survive on that. And their folklores, their legends, it will be different from those shared by the people from desert. And behavior, people from desert who are aware about the scarcity, the shortage of resources, they will have different behavior. They will have different ask or different mentality on how to spend money or how to earn money. In the same, while on the other hand, the people from fertile plain, they will have different way of spending their money or earning their money. So now you can see these two cultures, they are different. These are distinguishable cultures, and the voices of them, this culture, they will be recognized by the voices that is visible visible to the others. So the people of desert, they may speak Rajasthani, and people of the fertile plain, they may have other such as Magdi or Hindi, Barelvi. So my point is that culture depends on geographies, and culture are expressed by, or culture are voiced by the languages. But all in all, the concept of nation state or nation, it concerned with a large geography. So again, if we take example of India and we see the overall outline from the rest of the world, we know that is India is accessible, maybe accessible right now for many people, but for centuries it was inaccessible, because we were we were geographically isolated. So on the southern side, we are surrounded by Indian Ocean. So this area had become possible or accessible only in the 17th and 18th century, after the Magellan and Columbus and the Vasco da Gama expeditions. Before that, it was no readily accessible, unless the particular geography is readily accessible via any transport mean possible. The assimilation of culture or mixing of people, it would not take place. So India was isolated for centuries, So this isolation, it helped in survival of long culture, and this isolation also build up a unique assimilative culture of India. So since the people of desert and the people of fertile plain both share a proximity, both share a nearby area, and they know right now they do not think in the terms of accessibility of transport and communication, but I am talking about the shared history or the ancient history when such mixing up measures, such assimilative measures were not available, and so such foreign contacts were not easily available. So in that scenario, the both the people and the people they sharing their proximity, they would have found a common way of living. So such unique assimilative culture was the composite Indian culture that was invoked during the freedom struggle. So talking about the isolation of India. So here it is India is flanked by Indus River on the western side. On the eastern side, we have Indian Ocean and appendages of Himalayas known as the Arkan mountain chains that grows from northeast to Myanmar and Singapore, Thailand, and many Southeast Asia. So these extensions of the Himalaya, the Arkan mountains, they stretch from the northeast India into Southeast Asia. So here also we are flanked by mountain chains on the eastern side. On the northern side, we are flanked by the great Himalayas, those snow-clad mountains that were totally inaccessible during the ancient time. And the only passage available were two. The only passages that were available. The first one was the ancient sea route, and the other one was the mountain passes that are available that are there, were there in the Himalayas. You may have heard about Rohtang Pass, Nathula, Nathu Pass, and Bomdila, many such passes that are available, that are there in the whole range of Hindu Kush Himalayas. So this geographical isolation, it created a unique assimilative culture of India, and that culture is what shaped a country known as India. And this culture, this Indian culture, it helped in the formation of what we see as modern India. Now, the phases of nationalism. So, nationalism has passed through many phases. In 19th century Europe, it led to the unification of a number of small kingdoms into large nation states. Yes, the Europe before the consolidation or before the Renaissance period, it was a dark age that was manned by many feudal lords, vassals, and feudal lords, and population was not that great that time. So most of the area it was also uninhabited. But during the or after the Renaissance period, the concept of culture, and after the Renaissance period and the the great Gutenberg press that helped in the spread of written knowledge. So after both these, both these, what would I say, revolutionary aspect of those times, revolutionary aspects of 17th and 18th century, people got a taste of their identities. People started have taking or started looking at their world, their culture, their own lives in a different light. So, and as I've said, both Renaissance and the written material, so Renaissance and reading, both R and R, so both of them were unifying. Both of them had unifying elements. The Renaissance, it spread many uh, revolutionary ideas, many artistic and technical ideas into people, and people readily accepted those ideas, and inculcated those ideas that was helped by reading and talking. So this, so when people came together, when people got their own identity, such small kingdoms they formed into large nation states, such the Germany and Italy as classic example. You and they are also example of many Latin American countries. But nationalism has also contributed to the breakup of large empires such as Austro-Hungarian and Russian Empire. And recently, we have had just 3 decades ago, we have had the split of Soviet Union, and in early 20th century in Europe as well as breakup of British, French, Dutch, and Portuguese Empire in Asia and Africa, and such reorganization of national boundary. It happened because people uh, got ideated. People revolve their whole life against such identities. And the struggle for freedom from colonial rule in India, it is also a good example of how nationalism or how the invocation of such common identity, it could inspire people or it could mobilize people to throw the invaders out. Now, the process of redrawing state boundaries continues to take place since 1960s. Even stable nation state, even modern democracies, they have also faced such a separatist demand by various groups. And one such example, or not one, two, three, and four, five. So five such examples are there. The first one is the Quebecois of Canada, the Basque of northern Spain, the Kurds of Turkey. So this country had changed its name to Turkey. So Kurds of Turkey and Iraq and Tamils in Sri Lanka, and the other one is Arab nationalism. So, so these are modern examples of separatist movements, and even in India we have had separatist movements such as the issue of Khalistan, the Naga nationalism, or the Greater Nagalim, and the Kashmiri separatists. So this seeking demand or these nationalist aspirations, they have not plateaued or peaked. They are still there. Now, nationalism is a powerful force, but it is more difficult to arrive at a definition. And there are certain questions: what is a nation? Why do people form nation? And what do nations aspire? What are people ready to sacrifice? And we will look into them in the next chapter, next topic. The first one, the nations and nationalism. So, nation is not any casual collection of people. Yes, and what nation is and what brings people together, it can be different for different people, and different people share different ideas about who they like to live with or who they like to talk to. So, as I said, the primary unit, it is family rather than individual. So, we may like to see or we may like to associate ourselves with our family first. And it happens all the time, it happens everywhere that the primary person that we need to associate with or identify with are our parents, are our brothers, siblings, and this association or identification of identity, it grows into kinship after naming all the family members. And then the kinship bonds, they are taken into account. And here are in-laws and their siblings, in-laws or their primary associations that come into factor. And this family thing, it start spreading like a tree. So the point here is that the the association, if nation is a association or collection of people, so this idea can be different for different people, because if the idea is about association or idea is about identification with the people who you want to be with, then the relationship factor that comes into this whole picture. And when it comes to relationship, we certainly at the first look we shy away from strangers. So our primarily point of context will be our family members followed by our kinship bonds. And this can also be different for tribes and clans and other kinship groups who had ties of marriage and decent links. But as a member of a nation, we may never come face to face with your fellow nationals. Yes, I have never been to Andaman and Nicobar Islands, but I know the inhabitants there, the tribal communities and members of communities such as Zarawa, Santilandes, Onge. Those members and I, both of them share something in common. That is, we are descendants of the ancestors of this land, this country, India, and we share that descent with them. We share our common ancestors, and we share a common national identity. It is commonly believed that nations are constituted by people who share certain features such as descent, language, religion, and ethnicity. Yes, these are the common factors that unite people. The nation itself is association of people who share some common features. But these common features, they are not set criteria for such common features. Many nations that have formed do not have a common language. So Canada is the example. English and French both are spoken there, and India itself is a good example. In India, we generally have, or statistically, if we take the statistics, sorry, spelling, statistics. So the Constitution has recognized 22 languages. Many anthropologists, they have recognized 169 languages and 544 dialects. So if we take all these into account, it is generally believed that India has around 600 small and big languages. Such is the linguistic diversity of India. But this this figure, it should not be disputed on account of being wrong, because I have said there are many. 600 is the larger picture of many small and big languages, and it may include uh, many languages that are spoken by very few numbers. But collectively, we can say we have many languages, but still we are living together. So then, what constitute a nation? So nation is an imagined community that is held together by collective beliefs, aspirations, and imaginations. And now let's talk about the features one by one. The first one is shared beliefs. First, a nation is constituted by belief. So nation is not a concrete thing. It is not visible. It cannot be seen. It can only be felt. And this feeling or this belief, it is the collective identity and vision for the future that we and our ancestors have shared and aspired for an independent political existence. And a nation exists when its member believe that they belong together. Yes. So this belief, it is the core invisible element that binds us together. It is the thread that weaves us together. This now the second aspect, history. People who see themselves as nation also embody a sense of continuing historical identity. Yes. So this historical identity is like a roll of fabric. You might have seen in many shops. So this historical identity, it is a rolling of a fabric, and the rolling was first initiated in the history in the past by our ancestors, and this shared identity or this fabric, it is seen by us, it is felt by us, and this rolling, it is still continuing and will go into the future. That's that's how we can see the collective historical identity here. Nations perceive themselves as stretching back into past and reaching into future. Yes, it has encapsulated this idea well. There's this fabric of history that has started rolling in the past, is felt by now, and is reaching in the future. And this shared identity is another thread that weaves us together. And they articulate for themselves a sense of their own history by drawing a collective memory, legend, and historical records. Yes. So this culture thing, I say I have already brief about it. So this culture, it has elements of memories, it has elements of history, it has elements of legends and saga and collective attributes. And these attributes, they are shared by mm, inhabitants or the members of a particular identity. Now, nationalists in India invoke its ancient civilization and cultural heritage. So yes, this collective memories, history, legends, saga, collective heroes, the ancient historical identity, all can be clubbed into this phrase, ancient civilization and cultural heritage. So, in heritage, in sense that we inherited this culture from from our ancestors, and we have a responsibility to meaningfully transmit this culture to our children. Now, third point, territory. Yes, the nation may not exist in concrete form, but territories do. Territories exist, territories are felt, territories are walked upon and lived by. So, sharing a common past and living together on a particular territory over a long period gives people a sense of collective identity. Yes, as I have said, geography decides your culture. So, if people are living together for a long time over a particular territory, they will develop a sense of collective identity. And this collective identity was uh, what is manifested as culture. And now this territory aspect, it has many exceptions, and one of which is that Jewish people, they are scattered around the world, but they claim that the promised land or the land around Palestine, West Bank and Gaza, it is their homeland. And now proceed on to the fourth aspect, shared political ideals. So while territory and shared political historical identity play an important role in creating a sense of oneness, but it is the shared vision of the future and collective aspirations to have an independent political existence that distinguishes people from nations. Yes. So I I cannot certainly talk about the ancient India, but the historical the freedom struggle, it It revives the cultural identity, the historical identity, the historical oneness of people living in on this land, and the freedom struggle. Those people, those ancestors and nationalists, they have also drafted and readily mobilized people for a vision of a future India. They had their collective aspirations, and one of which is to have independent political existence. And this existence, this ideal, this vision, it entails people, it entails members of a nation state that they share a vision of what kind of state they want to build. And the ideals, they represent the terms under which they come together and willing to live together. It represents, in other words, the political identity as a nation. Yes, this is the gist of whole this historical freedom struggle, that the people, the different people and people of different cultures, they had their ideals, they had a vision of uh, an independent political existence for which they came together and they lived together. And by coming and mobilizing together, they accepted certain or common ideals which helped in formation of India as a nation. And in a democracy, it is shared commitment to a set of political values and ideals that is most desirable basis of a political community. Yes, and democracy, especially the talk of India, US, many such modern democracies, this this is the bedrock. This is the bedrock or fundamental statement that unites people or that help in establishment of democracy, is that the people living in a particular territory, they share commitments, they share a set of political values, such common values and ideals, and such common political values and ideals, they helped in making or weaving those people into a nation state. Democracy is the way, is the method by which people come together. And within a nation state, member of political community are bound by a set of obligations. Here, these are rights and DPSPs. Now, let's proceed on to common political identity. Many people believe that a shared political vision about state and society we wish to create is not enough to bind individuals together as a nation. They also seek a shared cultural identity. Well, it is an aspiration worth pursuing, but this aspiration of having a shared cultural identity, it may create conflicts in in the nations or in the countries where the diversity is greater. So, a shared cultural identity, it may not be possible, because to share a common culture, to share a common identity that is cultural in nature, people are likely to uh, signify it. They're likely to need certain signs and symbols and certain primary markers that can be identified or that can be uh, projected as common markers. In simple, if if some people such as A, B, C, and D are four people and they want to have a common identity, a common cultural identity. So it is likely that four of them, they will have one common identity, and that one common identity, it will have its own features that will be accepted and shared by all of them. So this may be possible, but what if the diversity is great if the number of different cultures and uh, such identities, they are greater and often contradictory, often contrary, often in opposite way. So in such a case, to come up with a shared cultural identity, it becomes a difficult task because people want to identify with certain symbols, certain folklores, certain cultural attributes that they can identify with. But if the differences in their culture, it is bigger, if the diversity, if it is not something that can be pulled together or something that can be fused together, such diversity will not provide a fertile ground for shared cultural identity. So this may be a good idea, maybe good thing to pursue such uniformity, but in practical, this also pose a threat to values. It may be it may be difficult to observe some such common festivals, common holidays, common symbols. So so this idea should be handled with care. So the reasons for this is, first, all major religions in the world are internally diverse, or whichever religion you belong to. You know, there are many sects, there are different number of sections there, and different number of interpretations of religious texts. So, if religion themselves are such diverse, if religion themselves have those many interpretations, those many different interpretations, having common a common religious identity, a common cultural identity across such diverse or such different interpretations, some of which may be poles apart, it is going to be difficult. The next, most society are culturally diverse. Yes. So different religion and language, they are living together. So this inter-religion or say the interlinguistic or intercultural dialogue, intercultural fusion, this may not be possible. So to impose a single religious or linguistic identity, it would exclude some groups, such as the Tamil versus Hindi issue. So this endeavor has been going on since the independence itself. But if you want to bring Tamil and Hindi together, both of them, they are they will hold their own language in high esteem, and yet it is possible because language as being or having an emotional attachment with people, having a motherly attachment with people, they are not likely to give up such a intense emotional attachment for a political identity. Such nation, the concept of nation may not have that power, so that people can abridge their own motherly attachments. So why would people of Tamil Nadu they will give up Tamil in favor of Hindi, or why would people speaking Hindi they would give this mother language, their favorite language, in favor of Tamil or any other language? So a common language, it would necessarily create more divergence or more distractions. Now, for both these reasons, it is desirable to imagine the nation in political rather than cultural terms. Yes, to keep ourselves limited to political arena, it it is a wise and democratic decision. Let's not venture into cultural field or the cultural arena. It is because culture it is diverse. And second, culture has emotional attachment with people. So the concept of nation, the concept of democracy, the concept of politics, all of them together do not have such uh, such likelihood that people of a particular culture may want to give their own culture in favor of a common political identity. Yes, especially if the political identity it talks about a shared cultural identity. So in short, people are happy if they have a common political identity and let's leave them to live their culture on their own.